Beautiful. All right, let's do one more question here because this is a good one that was written in here. So I know I can't keep doing what I'm doing. I'm burning out and not making enough money, but I feel overwhelmed by all of the tech, and it feels daunting to grow my presence online with so much already out there. Oh gosh, I can feel that anxiety in my system here. So let's all take a breath because I know a lot of people feel this way. Let's take a breath, feel into the feels because that's real, especially if you're just starting out and you haven't learned the skills and you're kind of scrambling to do all the things. You're flying solo, you're trying to make a living. You might be working a job. Maybe you've got kids and just trying to do all of the things. And it's a lot of things that you have to learn in this space. And thank goodness that you're not just starting and the tech is where it was in 2007 when I got started. Because, man, what you have available now, as far as the tools that go, the technology, the things that help you literally plug and play to get a business off the ground for way less money, way easier. Like there's so much available. So the first thing I'm just going to encourage you to do is just like take a pause, breathe, just like find a space of center, because to bring your life's work forward into the world, you want to leave that anxiety behind. You want to move forward feeling a little more clear in your mind, which means understanding your intentions. What is the intention? If you can pause long enough to take a step back from needing all the things now and having to do all the things to just remembering your big important why. Why are you doing this? Why does it matter? Why does it matter to you? And why is it going to matter to the people's lives that you're devoted to serving? And if we can get back to that why, we can calm the nervous system enough to see things a little more clearly. And then the next thing is, if you have all of this stuff on your plate in your life right now, just writing all the things down that you feel are on your plate right now, just as an exercise to just see it in front of you of like, oh, this is why my brain feels frantic, is I have all of these things. And if you can see it in front of you, you can actually ask yourself the next important question is like, okay, this is where I am and what I have on my plate. What are my priorities at this moment in my life based on where I want to go, which is a journey. It's a long-term journey. You don't have to rush to get there right now. So what are my priorities based on all of these things? And maybe you could release some anxiety by crossing some of the things off your list that you have deemed priorities or that you have given your time to that may be out of alignment with that core intention, that root why that you're feeling in your heart that is pulling you forward. And if you can cross a few things out, maybe it's things you've committed to, maybe it's relationships that pull you down, maybe it's a creative project that you thought was a sparkly, shining object that's actually not in alignment with where you're trying to go. Whatever it might be, sometimes you have to maybe put certain things on the shelf and come back to them later, or complete something that, maybe before you start this thing, you have to complete a couple other things so that your plate is clear of those things that you're doing. And that little priority exercise, taking some space to really be the visionary of your own life and use the power of your own intentions, is going to help to ease that anxiety so that you can see the path ahead a little more clearly than when you're frantically trying to do all the things and drowning in overwhelm. So that's my first bit of advice, because in 18 years, I can't tell you how many times that overwhelm has taken me down. And I've had to take a day or two personal time to just go lay on the ground and let that melt away so that I can see again. And that's an important part because as Einstein said, something along the lines of you can't solve the problems with the same consciousness that created them. And when you're in that space, you're not going to be able to have your brilliance shine through in the work that you're doing. Jill, I'm pulling you out because I know this is a muscle conversation.
Okay, I was like, I just keep jumping in. So I was like, I'm just going to give space for others to go first, but let me get in here.
Let me at it.
First thing that occurs, you are an animal. You are not a machine. And when it comes to entrepreneurship, building stuff, especially getting into tech, productivity in a culture that preferences productivity to a pathological level, it is very easy to start to relate to yourself and your body and your creativity as though it should produce like a machine, but you're an animal. And so I'm going to jump on a bunch of stuff that Brad just said here, because it's so like the pulling back. One of the first things that flagged as I heard, like, I'm burnt out, but I'm trying all this stuff and it's not working. One of the lenses or ways of orienting to my own creative work, my projects, my clients, that has made all the difference for me is the lens of seasonality. And here where I live on the wet coast, we have 4 seasons. We're working with life and death cycles. So a lot of times, if we're relating to ourselves and our work as a machine, that we should be doing this predictable upward trend, more, getting somewhere, constantly growing, constantly doing, constantly getting better, that we're going to arrive somewhere, then it can feel like we need to always be on, we need to always be churning, and that no matter where we are, we're somehow behind. And that feeling can be incredibly anxiety provoking and then leads to burnout. And the energy of productivity and production and initiating and moving is like spring, summer, right? Like, especially if it sounds like you've been at it for a while, but it still feels like you're in the beginning, like the business and the projects themselves are in kind of a spring. You've been planting seeds and making things and kind of initiating, but it's not taken root yet. But your own nervous system and your way of working is deeply craving rest and space. If you're on the edge of burnout, that's an autumn into winter kind of vibe. And so if your work is needing a season that your animal can't meet, you need to recalibrate. So it sounds like, I mean, I love this idea of what's the list of all the things, and can you get back to the core essential? What is your priority? What is your goal? Because what can happen is we go, oh, I want to do my life's work in this way, and then I want to make money at it. And then as we go, especially with tech, there's all these tactics and strategies and things to do that we think are going to get us there. And so as you write that list, looking at what are the things that I'm doing to then get to something to eventually get to the thing, versus what's a more direct route. If I can prune, take away, simplify, get to the very core of what I have the energy and alignment for, but also is meeting the goal, but in ways where you can get space and rest. Earthing, big fan. You know, when Bradley said I go and lay on the ground for a couple of days, like after you write that list, get your body somewhere where your body gets regulated. For me, it's getting myself out into the forest or into the ocean. A lot of times I see what happens for people is when they're feeling burnt out and overwhelmed, then they stay at it and they toil, or they consume more, watch more, work away with machines. I mean, technology is great and brilliant and offers us so much, but we aren't machines, and we can only tolerate engaging with machines and not with animals in nature for so long before we start to feel fried. So you really need to take a look at, how do I nourish my body and my nervous system and get to a place where I can feel at home in my own being? Because even prioritizing is going to be hard if you aren't at home in yourself. Those are my thoughts. And I just want to validate, this is really hard work. Like this challenge, every entrepreneur has dealt with this, whether tech is their edge. Like I am the least. The other thing is, like, if you have the resources, just go hire somebody to do this. I will not and never have done any of my tech myself because it just makes me so mad and I'm so impatient and I barely know how to upload a document. And I've managed to create a thriving online business for over a decade with zero tech skills. So if that's the other thing that I'll offer is if you suck at this and you hate it, see if you can, if you don't have the money to hire somebody, is there somebody who's brilliant at it and you can trade your services and your genius zone with theirs? So that's another possibility, is not only what are your priorities, but what are you really excellent at that you can offer out to receive somebody else's excellence in this area.
And on that, which was one of the topics we talked about on Monday with building a community, was around collaboration. So before saying I can't afford tech, start asking for quotes around how much it would cost you to have the work done. And then from that quote space, you can barter, you can inquire about somebody partnering with you as your tech team, as a percentage of revenue that you generate together. Like, I tell my son all the time, he's 6, I hear him say, I can't open this. I'm like, young child, you said the C word again. I'm sure you can do this. You just need to ask yourself the question of, how can I do this? And get into a more expansive place of possibility. And when you're in that expansive place, new solutions arise. And it's like, Papa, can you help me open this? Oh, great question. Now you did do it. You just asked for help. And so it's really important that you just get rid of that filthy McNasty C word when it comes to doing all the things in life.
I love this conversation. It's been such a part of my path, this burnout word, the B word. But I think everything that Bradley and Chayla have shared is amen to all of that. I think that when I read that question or that, it feels like a calling out for help, and take care of you first, because from a place of burnout, it's impossible to be creative and expansive. But I think that also there's a tendency to get into analysis paralysis. So when you're in that desperate, like, get me out of here, and you look out to see, well, what's the option? What are other people doing to get out of this thing that you're in? And what I'm assuming is it's like a one-to-one service-based model, where I know a lot of my clients who are therapists, coaches, especially during COVID, are burnt out, and they haven't taken that time because it feels like they don't have it to be able to replenish themselves and their animal bodies. And so, but they look at, building an online course, or they see that it has to look one way. And I think what we're offering in Creators Club, that's why inspired me to even join as a member of Bradley's community, is that I was all of a sudden seeing, oh my gosh, there's all these other ways it can look too, that there's, it doesn't need to be a black and white option, that there's so much possible when you actually allow yourself to tap into what you want to create and how you want it to look, so that it serves who you are. Like Chayla just said, you don't have to be super techie, and you can still serve and get your mission and your message out there. And so, yeah, I think surrounding yourself with people who are doing it and doing it in a way that aligns with who you are is key to that. So.
I can totally speak to the tech issue. Luckily, I'm a person that enjoys tech. I see someone else do it, and I'm like, how do they do that? I want to learn how to do that. And that's how I end up getting all this information up here and stuff. But I have been burnt out. There was a time, like during the pandemic, when I was live streaming every day, and I was going to live stream a lesson, and I did it for over 100 days. And at the same time, I'm like creating a course, and I'm doing social media, and I'm doing all these things. And that's what really burned me out. And after doing that, I was completely wiped out. I just stopped doing everything. I was like, all right, I know the algorithm is going to punish me, but I'm not going to be a slave to the algorithm. I'm just going to stop and then see what happens. But what happened is I kept getting subscribers, even though I stepped away. Things became clearer, the next steps, because I was like, well, what do I do now? What's the next step? But I think the thing to think about too is it might take more than 4 days. I stopped for like a couple months. I was like, nope, I'm done. I'm not going to rush it. So if I would say just follow your intuition, your gut, and say, you'll know when it's enough, and you'll see things start to interest you again, and you'll see the next steps on the path will arise. So yeah, don't rush the time off. You haven't given up until you stop, until I'm done. Like you haven't failed until you give up. So you're just taking a pause. So yeah.
I love it. And I just want to, I'm going to put you on the spot, Eric, because I've seen you nodding your head, and we know that you're a wise Yoda of the mountain. What advice would you have for this overwhelmed person that's trying to make their dreams come true? Because I'm sure there's some Yoda wisdom here.
I do think that the don't give up thing is the most important, really, because I just put out my newsletter yesterday about this, about all the failures that led to the life of my dreams. That it's never a direct path. It always has challenges. There are always times when you want to quit, but the dream that you don't see is the one that's beyond the dream you do. And you can only follow the dream you see. But I don't know. I mean, I think more often than not, the dream that I started following was not the dream that I realized. But the dream I realized was so much better than the one I started following. And I see so many people give up too early. And they go, I tried, didn't work, nah. And that hurts. Like it hurts me, and I can see it hurts other people too. So yeah, I mean, as cliche as it sounds, don't give up. Like you're gonna have to give up one day. Your body's just gonna fail. We're all gonna die. So don't give up before then.
I love that. What?
I'd like to share one more thing.
Yeah, please.
There is nothing wrong with you. I think that what can happen for a lot of us, like when I was starting to say this is challenging, and Eric, I love how this image of the dream that you're going for, and then the dream that you can't see, and staying with it, and the path being like this is like, it's easy to interpret when things aren't working, when they're hard, when you're burning out, that's a function of your own individual failing. This is a collective challenge. Like, there are systemic barriers all over the place to people living thriving, relaxed, creative, lucrative lives. And so we're like trying to do something really unique to bring our gifts and our interests and our passion and our genius and contribute to people and make money off it. Like, that's the holy grail of life's work. One that so many people don't even go for. So that you're going for it at all and it's hard is normal, and it's not because there's something wrong with you. And you're going to fail so much along the way. Failure is absolutely a part of it. And a lot of what we see on social media, well, people talk about their 15 figures that they make a month and all of the like highlight reels of their life, the projection of perfection and I never failed and I'm at the top of my game and everything is so awesome. It's everywhere. And so if you're also finding when you're burnt out and you're tired and you're deflated and you're like, is it me? What's wrong with me? If you are looking at and comparing yourself to other people, stop that too. Because what you're seeing isn't true. Being human is hard. Following your dreams is hard. It can also be blissful and exciting and all the beautiful things. But if you're struggling, that is not because you're failing. You're struggling because you're going for something really important.
Yeah. And that's the final thing I'll say. The final thing I'm going to say here is that struggle, because we're either struggling for somebody else's dreams or we're struggling for our own dreams. And it's very satisfying at the end of the day to know that the struggles we overcame today or the struggles we met were our own struggles. So they're for the thing that we believe in, that we feel we're here for. And because regardless, I mean, we're humans flying through outer space on a rock. guarantee we're going to have struggles along the way. That's just the nature of reality. So we may as well struggle for the things that we believe in and want for ourselves, our family, our life, and the people around us.